Aloha and welcome to Goddess Unleashed. This is Diane Bick, and today my guest on my Courage and Compassion series, which is a series that's all about supporting the community during this crisis, sharing powerful stories and how the people in this journey have transformed their lives from a chronic illness or disability and use that to help other people. So Matthew Ode, which I'm going to call him Matt on this episode, that's his nickname. He is a keynote motivational speaker and cancer survivor. He has shown a lot of courage and compassion in his journey as he shares his story to help others overcome their challenges, learn how to grow, and help them evolve through their individual struggles. He has evolved in his journey and helped others transform through their setbacks into building their strengths and empowering them. Matthew, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, wow. Well, that was a great intro, Diane. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm just super excited to be on here today, and excited to share a little bit of my story and also some messages and questions you have for me. So, do you want me to kind of share a little bit about myself first, or?
Go for it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm 28 years old. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I am a keynote motivational speaker. So about 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3C testicular cancer. They ended up finding an 11-centimeter tumor in my small intestine, and that's how they discovered that I ended up having cancer. And, right then and there, my life kind of just changed. I was a personal trainer, very healthy at the time. The last person that anybody would think would have this chronic illness, but I had it, and my life completely changed, and I'm excited to share a little bit more about my journey.
Well, that is amazing, because what I found in this journey is that so many people have transformed their outlook on life and healing. Either they experienced something that was really intense, chronic illness, cancer, or someone in their family has. So I like bringing people like that onto the podcast because I think it's so powerful to bring hope to the community, especially now that everyone is so stressed out and anxious and feeling trapped inside their homes during this crisis. So tell us a little bit about your cancer battle and how it transformed your outlook on life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a little backstory here is like I was saying before, I was very healthy. I was a personal trainer at the time, and I started to notice these minor back pains. And, at the time when you're a young adult, you think you're invincible. You think that, whatever life brings at you, you can handle it. So I didn't go see a doctor. I just let it go. And it got to the point where it was really hard for me to even walk, and eventually one night I actually ended up waking up and puking up blood. And yeah, so I had no choice, but I ended up going to the emergency room. They did a blood test on me, and they found out that I had lost 2/3 of the blood that was circulating in my body, which is equivalent to being shot with a gun. So that's when they immediately put me into a surgery to figure out what was going on. And when they came out, the next day I thought it was all over. They ended up giving me 6 bags of blood to regain my strength and energy. And I thought that the surgery was done or whatever they did, and I was fine. But that's when the doctor walked in and he told me, Matt, you have an 11-centimeter tumor in your small intestine. We have to rush you to the main campus of the Cleveland Clinic, which is one of the top hospitals in the country, immediately to do further testing. And for me, I remember looking over at my parents, and I had only been dating my girlfriend as well for about 2 months at the time. And my parents were crying. And the only thing I could think of was, how am I going to be strong for my parents? How am I going to be strong for Lauren, who is my girlfriend, who was just started dating me? How am I going to be strong for my friends and my family? And I started to look at the situation as not, why is this happening to me? But how is this happening for me? I'm going to say it one more time. Not why is this happening to me, but how is this happening for me? So anybody out there right now who's getting a difficult situation in their life, especially what's going on right now, if you can take your challenges and your struggles as a lesson instead of an excuse, you're going to have a different perspective. You're going to have a different outlook, and you're going to have a much more positive attitude towards what you're trying to, overcome. So for me, I said, I have to be strong for these people. How am I going to learn from this? How am I going to be a better person out of this situation? So I decided to, really put my head down and just say, whatever the doctors tell me, whatever the nurses tell me, whatever the, diagnosis is at the time, because I didn't know exactly what it was, I'm just going to take it. And as long as I'm still breathing, I'm going to keep pushing forward.
That's amazing that you were able to transform that and see the positive in it and really find a way to not only support yourself, but also support everyone that loves you. Because my journey started quite similar to that, where I went through chronic illness and I was about to have to leave the emergency room bedside because my doctor said, that's it, your body is falling apart. You cannot continue to support patients in the community if you're falling apart. You need to take care of yourself. But the thing that made me decide to make that effort for myself was actually looking at my kids and watching them taking care of me. And they were little itty bitty kids, and realizing that this was not the way of life that I wanted for them. And I wanted to create something more inviting for them. And that's what pushed me to change it. So a lot of it is perspective, how we perceive the things that are happening to us, even though maybe the challenges and obstacle may be huge, but our perception and the way we choose to process them is really a very, very powerful tool.
Yeah, and I think you said it, kind of hit the nail on the head, was your kids. You found something or someone or an individual that is your purpose, almost like why you're doing this for either that person, yourself, or whatever that situation is. And I think that's so important to have somebody there that you are, there's a lot of setbacks in life, but if you have somebody there that you're like, hey, my kids are like my everything, I'm doing this for them, it will motivate you beyond belief and it will keep you going no matter what, almost. So I'm glad you kind of brought that in.
Absolutely. It's important to find a really important motivator that hits you in the heart, that really makes you strive for those goals in order to accomplish things, especially overcoming cancer, which is so huge. One of the things that I've been sharing lately, and I've been trying to support the community is a lot of people are feeling crappy right now. So stressed, anxious, and overwhelmed. And how can we transform that stressful experience and become happier and joyful? The course that I've created, and it's a really short course, how can we, try to facilitate this for people? And I find that it's hard for people to connect with that sense of calm now that they're trapped in this crisis. So I want to really open up that conversation. What happens when you're feeling stressed out and anxious is everything seems to vanish. You become overwhelmed. Your perception might change. You lose that connection with joy, peace, and happiness. And now you have this negative thought in your mind that is overwhelming and making you sick and having symptoms. So a lot of the things that I talk about in my book, The Truth About IBS and Anxiety, is that our symptoms are connected not only to the physical inflammation and stress that is happening, but also to the emotions that we're experiencing. In your journey through this, which has to be a really difficult experience, did you notice those fluctuations in emotions and how they impacted your physical body?
Yeah. So when I was going through chemo, directly right in the middle of my chemotherapy, I hit one of the biggest mental roadblocks, that I could have faced. I ended up losing my 4-year-old puppy who was diagnosed with cancer about 8 months before I was. And I took him to every single one of his chemotherapy sessions until I was diagnosed. So then once I was diagnosed, we were fighting this together. So when he passed away, I shut down. I shut down mentally, and then my body followed right after that. And I said I didn't want to go to my chemotherapy. I didn't want to do any of these things for probably a good 5 to 6 days. And eventually, I was laying in my bed one day, super weak, super tired, because that's what chemo does to you, is it just destroys everything in your body. And I remember I'm like, is this what Duke, which is was my dog at the time, is this what Duke, is this what my parents, is this what Lauren would want from me, to just give up on myself so easily because of a setback or a situation that has hurt me mentally and now it's hurting me physically? I said, absolutely not. So what I did was I just got myself up and I took that first step. I think that's the most important thing, is just taking that first step after, dealing with a mental hurdle or a physical hurdle. And I just started to get myself back together. I started walking a little bit when I felt good. I started eating a little healthier. And next thing you know, I completed my chemotherapy. And, for anybody out there, I think that is going through a mental struggle right now, just realize that this is only a time and moment. For most of us, like we get so caught up in the moment that we think it's going to last forever, but it really won't. And for me, I just had a bigger purpose, that I was doing it for somebody, and not just, it was bigger than myself, it was bigger than myself. So that's what kind of got me out of my mental hurdle and allowed me to have my physical strength back.
That's a really powerful story. And I'm sorry for your loss of your dog. That must have been so hard in the middle of everything else that was happening. And that tends to be what happens, right? We're having challenges and obstacles, and they're never going to end. There's always something else that's going to come in our way. and make it seem like we're hopeless and helpless. But changing our perception and getting through them and making that first step, like you're saying, really helps transform those things. And one of the other things that I learned on my own journey, when I jumped in deep in the hard, stuff and tried to transform my health, I realized that a big, important, and essential component is having a support system, having people that are there to support you, whether it's a coach, whether it's a friend, family member, but really someone that knows what you're going through, that is supporting you through that experience. How did your support system help you transform your experience and really help you heal?
Yeah, so I'm going to share just the first part of my support system was when I was going through chemo and cancer, which was massive for me. So, not only did I have, so when I was first diagnosed, the one thing, I was not really emotional at the time. I was like, in shock, and I was like, how am I going to stay strong for everybody? And that day I had family coming in, I had friends coming in, and I would still be giving them hugs. They'd be crying, but I'd be okay. And then until Lauren walked in, and I was all like super nervous for some reason. Well, not really for some reason, mainly because we'd only been dating for 2 months, and I didn't know if she wanted to stay with me, if she wanted to break up with me. I didn't want to put that burden on her, because that's a lot to put on somebody who just met you not too long ago. And we basically like locked eyes, we hugged each other, and then I broke down. And I knew right then and there she was going to be my rock throughout this whole entire journey. And for a lot of people, there's at least one person in your life, I can almost guarantee it, that will be there for you no matter what you're going through. And you need to be able to rely on them in certain circumstances. You cannot fight these battles alone, because support system is everything when you're going through challenges in life. And the lonelier you are, the more difficult it is to get out of that situation. So not only did I have my friends and my family, but I had Lauren by my side as well. And a really cool story is when I ended up finishing my chemotherapy, my dad said, you know what, we're going to host an event on Thanksgiving morning, because it was near Thanksgiving. We're going to host an event on Thanksgiving morning where Cleveland, Ohio hosts what's called a turkey trot. A turkey trot is basically a 5 and 10K race where a lot of people come on Thanksgiving morning to run it. But we're going to get people there to just celebrate your victory of overcoming, chemotherapy, not cancer yet, but just beating the, diagnosis and the chemotherapy. So we had no idea how many people were going to show up. And that morning we had over 400 people show up at that event. We ended up calling it Mustaches for Matt. And the reason we called it Mustaches for Matt was because when I was actually going through chemotherapy, I lost all of my hair, but I decided to keep on this like dirty mustache. It was really, really bad, but it was the only hair I had left. So I said, you know what, I'm going to keep it on. And all of my friends noticed it. And of course, they're not going to make fun of me. So all of my guy friends and all the dads said, we are going to grow mustaches throughout this entire chemotherapy with you as well. All 5 rounds that I had, which lasted about 2.5 months. So all the guys and dads grew mustaches. And when the event finally came, they all had full beards or mustaches on. And girls, we gave them fake mustaches and we had shirts. And that day, I probably didn't even know 200 of the 400 people that showed up. And it just goes to show that you have so many people in your life that you might not even know that are there to pray for you or that are there to just guide you if you need them. And you see that support was, it was breathtaking. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it was just so grateful to know that you have people in your life that care about you. And there's so many good people in this life that want to just help you. So like I said, my best advice is you're not alone, especially in these journeys, and don't try to fight these battles by yourself, because it's going to be a very difficult route if you do that. So for me, my support was almost everything in this journey, because I don't think I'd be here today without it.
That's an amazing story. And I had no idea. You told me it was a funny story about the mustache, and it really is.
Yeah.
And I see how that would have brought like a big sense of community and joy and happiness, because all these people are connecting with you, even maybe people that you don't even know that grew a mustache just to support you. Yep. Is a really cool thing.
Yeah, it was crazy. And the cool part was actually the host of the race, which gets about 10,000 people, noticed, because we all had the same shirts on. We ended up getting bunches of shirts for people, mustache for Matt shirts. and they noticed us. And, now we stay in touch with them, like these huge race coordinators. And every year now, I'm starting this year doing a 5K charity race, 5K race, once this is all over the coronavirus, but where I'm connected with them and they're helping me host a race, and we're donating all all of our proceeds to a young adult cancer organization. And it's just been very, amazing to see what support and what like connections can bring you.
That's beautiful. And it is true that we can find support, and maybe people that we aren't even aware they're supporting us. There's people, in social that maybe you're connected to that are going through something similar. There's groups that you can join. There's so many different ways to get support. There's even, you can find coaches, you can find mentors. There's different options if you don't have maybe a tight-knit family like you did and I had that support system. So I think it's amazing that you shared that inspiring story.
Thanks.
One of the things that I noticed on my journey is that self-limiting beliefs cause a lot of setbacks on our journey because we're always experiencing challenges and obstacles. I mean, I've experienced so many, even in this past week. I actually have a fear of recording myself on camera. Like this podcast and these videos, though it's something that I desperately want to do, and it's like, yes, that is my passion. I get scared sometimes, and sometimes so many challenges and obstacles will come in our way, and our mind goes into this negative Nancy. I call it negative Nancy and negative Norm, and negative Norm would be yours. And they tend to overcome our minds and push us in the opposite direction of where we want to go. I use a variety of strategies to help me transform that. And that's what I use with my clients as well. I use affirmations, hypnosis, meditations, and transforming those negative thoughts to end that whole negative Nancy and Norm cycle inside our mind. How do you transform those negative thoughts and overcome those challenges? And what kind of a difference do you see when you overcome those negative thoughts?
Yes. So for me, sharing my stories in the very beginning of all of this, which was maybe 2 years ago, was so scary because I had PTSD. I had all these fears and all these, I would go back and relive these moments. But what I found was what the most helpful for me of getting over my negative thoughts and fears was actually facing them head on. Literally, I would go and I would just keep sharing my story. I would keep, it's not like I would relive that moment in fear. I would relive that moment to serve other people. So when you're generally in fear, that means you are in fear of yourself. But when you take the fear out of yourself, the emotions out of yourself, and you use like a certain situation to help other people, that means you're fully in service to them. Instead of having this emotional attachment to yourself, like I said, I'm bigger than myself now. I'm helping other people. So for me was just facing my fears head on. And eventually I got to a point where I didn't have an emotional attachment to it, meaning that my emotions didn't dictate what I was feeling and, sharing at the time. It was more, how am I helping other people? And like I said before this, everything in life happens for you, not to you. So, for a lot of people, they get these negative thoughts in their head and they keep saying, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Not how is this happening for me? What is the lesson that's involved? So for a lot of people, it's so easy to blame other people or to, be super down on yourself and want that self-pity because you can't figure out the clarity of where to go in life. You don't know where that direction is. And that's okay though. That's part of life. Change is actually the next step to success. Failure is the next step to success. Failure is feedback. I'm gonna say it one time, failure is feedback. It's not, this excuse and I'm done, I'm quitting. The most successful people in life, like Michael Jordan or The Rock or all these people, their superhero story of failures. That's what they're the greatest, but they love sharing their stories of setbacks because they know that's what got them to where they needed to be. So everybody who has those negative thoughts in your life, first off, it's okay. We all have negative thoughts, but when you start looking at life as a lesson and something to push you forward instead of, blaming the universe or blaming other people, you are going to be in such a better place from having those negative thoughts. And for me, I was always facing them head on, because if I don't face them head on, I'm going to let them come back into my life and keep reoccurring. And it's just like anxiety. I used to have anxiety in my life as well. When you have a reoccurring thought and you keep building on it, it just gets worse and worse and worse. You have to overcome it by facing it head on. So that's my best advice is don't be afraid to go back to that moment. But when you do, be bigger than yourself with it. Use it to better yourself and better other people. And that's what'll help you get over it. It really, at least that's what's helped me get over it.
Absolutely. I love that you say that failure is a stepping stone towards your transformation, towards your change to a new way, a new path. Because a lot of people take that like that's at the end, and we really have to push through that and get that positive mindset and transform things. One of the things I say a lot is what we resist persists. So if we resist this transformation, this change, whatever it is we're trying to accomplish, for me, publishing this book was like something that I had been resisting for 7 years. I had started writing it 7 years ago and kept stopping, and it kept pushing me towards it. And it was a goal until I changed it, like you said, that it was more than me. It was about really supporting the community and other people that have experienced this same kind of chronic illness, to change their experience on life and give them some self-help tools to help them relax their body, is when I finally helped transform that, because I was thinking bigger than myself. So it is true that we have to really dig deep and support others and see how things change.
And I would say my best advice is start before you're ready. You know, everyone is so afraid to start. It's like the biggest crutch is like, I don't know where to start. That's why I always say start before you're ready. Because guess what? Instead of ready, set, go, set, ready. Meaning just start and take imperfect action. You don't need to take perfect, because that's what everyone wants to be. Is, you know, I see a lot of perfectionists, or I see a lot of people who procrastinate because they want to be a perfectionist. And be imperfect with your actions and learn along the way. The only way you're going to get feedback is through other people. You know, like you can't. I just see so many people trying to get to this destination in life, but they want this road of like this. They just want this clear, nice yellow brick, road to where they need to be. That's not how life is. It's a big roller coaster, and that's where enjoy the journey, because that's where all of your experience, all of your knowledge is going to come. It's actually from the failures and, the struggles through your mind is where all of your knowledge and your strength comes from. It really does. So, so if you're in that position right now where you feel stuck, chances are you probably haven't even gotten started. So just get started.
Absolutely. Start before you're ready. I like that. And I actually did that because I was getting ready for, I don't know if you know, I was on stage, like, I think in March. And it was one of my friends that actually invited me to present on stage, and she connected me, and I was not ready for that, but I did it anyway. I was like, I sent them everything that they wanted. I'm like, this is something I really want to do. And I went for it, and I rocked it on stage. Of course, I had my glitches because my resistance got in the way, and my Zoom video did not work. It didn't record. So I have this like video of myself that doesn't have great audio, but you know what? I did it. I got on stage. I connected to a lot of people, shared my story, and it was a big leap. And sometimes you just got to take that leap and do whatever it is that you're trying.
Biggest moments in life is when you take that leap of faith. You don't ever expect just opportunities to come for you. You have to jump into the unknown. I love that. That was great that you did that, because it's not a lot of people are willing to do it.
Absolutely. Life is about going through the obstacles and challenges and learning and growing and evolving through the process. And little by little, you're going to get to whatever goal it is that you want to accomplish, whether it's improving your health, whether it's getting a new career, getting a podcast, whatever it is. There is a reason why all of these experiences are happening, because we're learning through them. And some of them may be really hard, but we have to really get up and go and jump deep into them to really get anywhere in life. So we're running out of time for this first half of the podcast. I'm going to pause the audio and put us on hold. This is Diane Vick. Okay. Aloha, and we'll see you soon. Aloha, and welcome back. This is Diane, Goddess Unleashed. And as you know, I've been interviewing Matthew Ode, which I'm calling him Matt on this episode. And right before we went on the break, we were talking about challenges and obstacles, how it's important to really push through them and take the leap to make a transformation in your life. But I really want to dig deep into a part of his story that he says might take a little bit longer for him to explain. In his journey through cancer and overcoming, it was stage 3, right?
Yeah, the highest stage. So stage 3 for testicular.
Wow. He experienced a lot of obstacles and challenges and a lot of health challenges. He had a near-death experience and 5 surgeries. Matt, tell us how this experience changed your outlook on life.
Yeah, so first I want to go into like a brief overview of like what happened. And, when I share my story in full, it's a long story. So I'll break it down into like a shorter section, but then I'll explain how it changed my life as well. So after I was done with chemotherapy, I ended up going back to my oncologist, and he sat down with me and he said, Matt, we have some good news and we have some bad news. The good news is your 11-centimeter tumor has shrunk from 11 centimeters to 3 centimeters. I was like, that's awesome. So the bad news is your tumor is actually wrapped around what's called your inferior vena cava. Now that is basically a central vein that starts from the bottom of your upper body to your heart. So we're gonna have to do about a 10 to 12 hour surgery to remove that with about 3 different surgeons involved, and we don't know the complications that are gonna be involved. So that was like the longest 2.5 weeks of my life waiting to go get that surgery, and eventually it happened. And going into that surgery, I'd lost about 45 pounds. So I was about 140 pounds going into the surgery. And they ended up doing a 10 to 12 hour surgery, removing the vena cava. And when I came out of the surgery, I was close to 200 pounds. I had so much swelling that built up after they removed that vein that it was really hard for me to walk. It was hard for me to do anything. And 3 days later, because I was like sedated for about 3 days, I woke up and I really couldn't move. And I remember asking my doctor, I said, is this something normal? And he says, isn't normal, but the fluid should eventually drain out of your stomach. I ended up having a massive surgery from my left hip to my right hip. So, as the days go by, I'm making a little progress. The draining is starting to come out, and I eventually get released from the hospital. Well, 6 days out of the hospital, one day I noticed the draining just stopped like that. And within probably an hour, I was in so much pain that I got rushed back to the emergency room, where they ended up having to drain 7 liters of fluid out of my stomach, causing me to go into complete kidney and liver failure. I had a cone drilled inside of my head to relieve brain swelling. I had a catheter in my neck and in my chest because I thought I was going to be on dialysis the rest of my life. And I was in a coma for 2 weeks. And, long story short, I ended up being in the ICU for over 40 days. I ended up being in the Cleveland Clinic for 53 straight days, where I went from about 200 pounds of all that swelling to a matter of 110 pounds in about in 53 days with 5 different surgeries. And the last surgery that they did on me was what's called an open wound surgery, where they couldn't end up closing my skin back together. So they ended up having to keep an open wound on my stomach, which ended up lasting a year to heal for my skin to grow over it. And, throughout those 53 days, I had not been able to get out of the bed for about probably 35 of them. And when I finally did, I had to relearn to live my entire life again. From sitting, laying in my bed to sitting in my bed took an entire week. From sitting to standing took almost another week. And from standing to taking my very first steps again, almost took another week. And, after that, I made a lot of progress. And when I was released from that hospital, my parents never left the hospital. They stayed there every single day. And so did Lauren. The only time Lauren left was when she had to go to work, and she would wake up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, come see me, where I couldn't even talk for most of the time. Because remember, I was in a coma for 2 weeks. She would come and see me, spend time with me, go to work, come back, spend more time with me. And I wouldn't even be able to talk to her or do anything. And she would just be there. And same with my parents. And I had friends and family flooding in. And I want to share a really powerful story is, when I was released from that hospital, it was March 17th of 2017. And the day that I had actually met Lauren was March 17th of 2016. And for me, I'm faith-based, but I don't push faith on anybody. But there was a lot of stories of God putting people into my life and giving me opportunities. And I know for a fact that that day wasn't just like a random day that I met her. And it was definitely God putting somebody into my life to, be there for me and be my support system. And for me, I would say, going through these circumstances and going through these difficult times, coming out of that hospital, it wasn't like rainbows and butterflies. It was me for the next 2 years gaining my health, my mind, and my spiritual journey on track. And, it was it was by far the hardest thing I've ever faced in my life, but also now looking back at it, the most eye-opening and, different. I can't express how much of a new perspective I have on life, because what I would say is when you go through the most difficult times in your life and when you've officially hit rock bottom in your life, the only place you can go from there is up. And, for me, I said, I can only go up from here and there's nowhere else I can go. So it totally changed my perspective. It totally changed my gratitude, because guess what? Now, any day that I feel stressed or I feel uncertain, I actually have a bracelet that I have on. It's just a survivor bracelet, a testicular cancer survivor bracelet. And I can go back because like I said before in the previous, last 25-minute segment, was I don't have an emotional attachment to my story anymore. All I do is I go back and I realize how grateful I am to still be alive and how grateful I am to be able to help other people with my message. So anytime I feel down on myself, or anytime you feel down on yourself, go back to a moment of, a difficult time in your life that you overcame, and you'll feel so much better about yourself and so much more fulfilled because you overcame an obstacle. And now you're looking in the moment of like, wow, life really isn't that bad. And for me, that's what I look at every day when I get stressed. And yes, I get stressed. Yes, I still get excuses and all of these things. But every time I look at this, it's quicker to get out of it than letting it just, control the rest of my day or weeks or months. So that's just a very short story of everything. But, I hope that helps kind of what you were asking.
Yeah, it was a powerful story, and it's great how you connected that yes, God or whoever it is, the universe brings us people that we need to support us in the journey. And it's amazing that you found her and she was there with you. She hardly even knew you, and she was there with you, Lauren, through the whole thing. And you guys are still thriving together and building this amazing life, right? So,
yeah. Yep. She's 10 feet from me. She's in the living room right now. So yeah, we're trying not to, I know how it gets when you're confined with somebody for so long, but no, we're good. We're really good. We've learned to be boyfriend and girlfriend now, instead of just all this stuff that happened to us in like such a short period of time.
Yeah, like now is when you're really getting to know each other, because you're not through that whole stressful experience, which has to have been hard for both of you.
Yes. Yeah, very emotional and very difficult for, a lot of reasons, but it also grew our relationship so much stronger. It took us from boyfriend and girlfriend to, it feels like we've been with each other for our entire life, kind of.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. I started my journey, I started getting sick in my teens, and I met my husband when I was 15. We're still together. If you ask me the number, I can't remember right now, but we've been together for 27 years. I believe it's our 18th year of marriage, but it's been a long road, and he's been there through all those obstacles and challenges. So it's amazing that you found someone that can support you through that, because he's really seen like this whole 360. He saw me continuously getting ill over the years, to the point where half of my body was numb, and I was constantly in therapies and taking tons of prescriptions and having surgeries all the time, to now this energetic woman that is into sports and dances and just feels younger. Yeah. It's such a big transition. He was really a big part of that. So it's amazing that you found her in the middle of all this craziness that was happening.
Thank you. Yeah. Very grateful. So my biggest word I could say is just grateful to still have her in my life. So
very valuable learning experience for sure.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
So, yeah. So we were united in an interesting way, because we had never met each other before. And you had actually found a course that I had shared on Eventbrite called Manifest Wellness, which is really bringing pieces of my book, helping people transform the way that they feel, reducing that inflammation and stress that we're experiencing in life, and creating that mindset to take the leap, right? To make those changes and transformation for yourselves. what is it that piqued your interest when you came across me on Eventbrite?
Yeah, when I came across you, I've been looking for somebody who's really been trying to help people overcome some of adversity, especially through the mindset. And for me, it's always been, you start with your mind. Everything in life starts with, how do you overcome the obstacles in your mind? And that relates to your physical and relates to your spiritual journey. And when I say spiritual, it doesn't mean faith necessarily. It could just mean finding your purpose in life. And when I came across you, I thought this could be a great opportunity to, not just share my story, but, share my, figure out what kind of, questions you had for me and what kind of messages I could relate to your audience. Because I feel like right now, with all this stress and anxiety and, all of these things going on in life, it's so good to just kind of share. For me, at least, it's good to feel like sharing my story and my message of overcoming certain obstacles and helping other people who are currently going through this. And I just figured it might be a good fit and, really helpful for anybody out there right now who feels like there might not be a way or there might not be a path, but there really is, I promise. And when you do find that path, you're going to be so much stronger. You're going to find so many more opportunities in your life, and so many more new doors are going to open up. And, that's kind of why I wanted to join. And I've been just reaching out to, a lot of different people to really bring as much positivity and light into such a dark situation right now. And I think there's always light in dark situations, but you have to find it. And sometimes you need to hear it from some other people. So I'm very grateful I found you and we connected. And I love that you really take mental health and the mindset into such big play, because I think that's a huge topic right now. And it's been a huge topic, and it will be a huge topic for a very long time, of, controlling your mind, and not even necessarily controlling it, but learning how to deal with certain circumstances in your life, and, making yourself and other people around you stronger from it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That was an amazing thing. I had no idea what you were going to say to answer that question, but it was a great experience.
I kind of didn't either, but I did. So it was good.
That was wonderful. But yeah, mindset is a huge thing. So in my journey, it took me so long because I had no idea that mindset was such an important part of it. I'm coming from the science world, the nursing world, the special ed teacher world. It was a very different place from where I am right now. And I thought, nutrition, supplementation was the way to go. But I kept getting more obstacles and challenges. And I wasn't making that transformation for myself. I wasn't getting where I needed to go until I started that mindfulness component. It was such a huge part. And once I got that was when I finally published the book.
That's it. Coming over those limited beliefs of yourself. The only thing that was holding you back was yourself, your mind,
Exactly. And then deciding to put people first was a huge part of it. You were talking about pain. So I decided the book was open to a page about pain.
Awesome.
The goal is insight. Let's face it. You are familiar with pain. The experience of pain in your life is common. Some people experience more than others, but the fact is, you want it to stop. You suffer from emotional and physical pain on a regular basis. You want to leave the pain behind and live your life of your dreams. You want to feel fulfilled, happy, and alive. You want to feel wanted, needed, and loved. You want to feel supported, safe, and nurtured. But there is one critical part of you that controls every aspect of your life, whether you like it or not. It is the part of you that stops you from speaking up for yourself. It stops you from going after that amazing job. It stops you from going up to that attractive person and starting a conversation. It happens to everyone at one moment or another. Some people experience it more prevalently. I've said it before and I will say it again. Our pesky subconscious mind controls the path to our future. So guess what? We both agree you need to take the leap and make that transformation for yourself. Not to get stuck in that pain.
Yeah. And I want to say one thing too. The biggest thing I see a lot of people is they feel like, I've heard a lot of people feel like they're unwanted, or people don't care about them, or they feel like when they put themselves out there, they don't get the responses that they want. And that's what makes them afraid of failure. They get whether it's a negative response or no response at all. That's what people I think are so fearful of sometimes, and that's the pain that they get. And here's my best advice for that is start serving other people without expecting anything in return from them. be fully in service, 100% in service. Give everything you can to that person, but I don't want you to expect anything in return from them. And that is when you are going to be able to fully immerse yourself without any fears or failures. Because guess what? You're not getting too high when somebody just keeps praising you and have all these people, but also you're not getting too low when somebody criticizes you or doesn't respond. You're right in the middle of, I am fully in service to these people, and I'm not going to let my emotions dictate how much I want to help them. And I think that's a huge key in overcoming a lot of your struggles of serving and helping other people.
Absolutely. It is important to help and support others and find the path to healing and transformation by helping others, because it just makes your process so much easier when you take it out of your own mind and you get out of your own way to do things and support people. So that's why I thought this courage and compassion series was so important. And you just, like we said, when people are supposed to align with you, they just come into your life. Like that email just came and I was thinking, oh yes, I want to do this series, and boom, you were in my series. You know what I mean?
It's crazy. Don't know how it works, but it does.
Exactly, it does. Next question. How do you support people through their difficult times and get them through the challenges and obstacles that they experience?
Yeah, I listen more than I talk first. So big thing is I listen very well to what's going on in their life, because too often we want to give so much advice to somebody without even listening to their actual problem. And for me, I actually sit down and I figure out exactly what their main pain points are, what they're dealing with. And then I kind of give them a solution as long as I feel credible giving it to them. You know, I'm not going to give somebody something that I don't feel like I'm able to give them. But as long as I feel that I am able to help this person, I will give as much as I can to solve that specific problem. And I always try to figure out first I try to figure out I actually have a coaching program as well. And I go through mind, body, spirit, and then impact. So I start with the mind and I figure out what is that mental hurdle that keeps distracting them from where they want to be in their life. And, you know, it can be so many different things. But for me, once I figure out that mental hurdle, I dial in on that with them. And I figure out what you know, out of that mental hurdle, what are the key components that keep coming to you that mental hurdle keeps happening. So like, for example, we'll say somebody is afraid of failure. Okay, well, what are you doing right now that is causing you to be afraid of that failure? Are you posting on social media and you're afraid that somebody is not gonna, you know, give you a nice response? Are you, you know, afraid to put yourself out there because you're afraid nobody's gonna listen to you? Whatever it might be. And I get them to get over those fears. And once they can get over those fears, then it's a lot easier to start getting on that spiritual journey. And, you know, I always do, the reason I have body in there is because I think taking care of yourself, you know, your body is so important. It's your engine to your life. But after that, then I think it's so much easier to go on that spiritual journey and find your purpose. Because a lot of people right now, I'm saying to help all these people, but half of them are probably like, well, I don't even know how to help these people. Well, first, you need to figure out what you enjoy doing, like what causes happiness in your life. Figure that out. What is causing you to be happy? What do you enjoy doing? And then figure out something in your life that you overcame. So once you figure out what you've overcame, then you can use it to help other people and help other people of what you enjoy doing. So for me, I overcame cancer, but I love helping people through the journey of clarity. There could have been other routes that I took, but that's the way I did it. So it's kind of my advice is get over those hurdles first, and the clarity and everything else will kind of come into play.
Absolutely. That's a big important step, is getting over the hurdle. And sometimes that's what people look for coaches like us to help support them through the process, because one, they're too overwhelmed and stressed. Two, they're not sure exactly how to get from point A to point B. And having someone that can guide them through that and give them the support that they need is a crucial component. So I think it's amazing that is what you're doing.
So important. Like we talked about support, use your support. You know, if you don't, you know, if you can't afford a mentor right now, which generally I always say, like, you know, it's a lot of people, their number one thing when they come to me is, I can't afford this or I can't afford that. And I say, okay, what if we took money out of the equation and, you know, 60 days from now, you were at this point in your life? and I told you at 60 days you'd be at this point in your life, but it was this much, they'd be like, I'd do it in a second. I say, well, then what's holding you back right now? So like a lot of times, you know, but if you can't afford a mentor, use your other support system, use your family, use your friends to help guide you and, you know, push you forward. But you have to be around, this is a big thing, you have to be around people that want to see you grow, that want to help you grow. Because sometimes the people that you are most close to and you love the most are actually the ones that are bringing you down. So be very conscious of that and find people that are going to uplift you and point you into the right direction. That's so important.
I love that you brought that up, because that was like one of the crucial components in my journey, but also in my book, is that we have to have boundaries and we have to know which people are helping us propel forward and which ones are holding us back. And those people that are holding us back, you really have to be conscious of your boundaries and what are you going to accept, because that will continue to get in your way when you're trying to get somewhere. So it's important to make sure that you get an accurate support system, someone that really supports you, and start to create boundaries and separate yourself from those people that are holding you back. And I love that you talked about, even if you don't have the money, there are ways that you can get on that path. Like one of the things that I started doing when I was in this journey is finding people on YouTube that align with your vision, people that teach things that you are already aligned with, that you can simply just follow their videos and get a better understanding about what they do to get into that direction of where you're trying to go, even if you don't have the finances to pay for it. Just like listening to podcasts like this one, they can be so empowering and get you in that right mindset and get you to what your goal is.
Yep, so true. Couldn't agree more with that. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
All right, so soon we will be wrapping up in about 5 minutes.
Awesome.
I definitely wanted to talk a little bit more about mindfulness practices. So you went through this whole journey, and it has to have been super hard physically on your body and impact, you know, the way you process stress and anxiety. What practices did you start incorporating when you were going through this whole journey?
Yeah, so number one was I did do some type of meditation. I think meditation is different for everybody. For me, it was always kind of like, I like doing visualization meditation, where I visualize what I can achieve in my future, how I'm going to impact the people I want to help, how I'm going to leave a legacy for my family and all of, you know, my friends and people I care about. So like, that's what kind of helped me as I started to be more present in the moment and just, you know, take a deep breath. And I think the biggest thing is stop worrying about the past and the future, because, you know, worrying about the past is just going to, you know, bring you, you know, depression, and worrying about the future is just going to bring you anxiety. And, you know, for me, it was very, you know, much being in the present of my thoughts and my goals in life, because, you know, I have a massive dream and I have a massive place of where I want to be, and a visualization of where I want to be, but being present in the moment of like, hey, I'm here now. What is my next step to get to that? So like, I would have visualizations of, I wouldn't worry about the future. I'd be excited about the future. And then I would figure out in the present, what do I need to do today, little brick by little brick, to get there. And so meditation was one of them. Finding support group was insanely, I wouldn't be doing this today if I didn't. I joined a business mastermind group, and it completely changed my life. And then eventually I got out of that group and I joined another one. And, you know, just the connections I made, you know, like I said, I've changed my friends group. You know, I still love my old friends, and they were there for me every step of the way throughout my journey. But you are the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. And if they're not getting you to that destination, like I said before, you need to find new people that will. And I'm not saying cut people out of your life. I'm saying you just need to have them in your life a little bit less than what they were. So for me, changing my group and joining different groups, having a mentor. I have a mentor as well, a speaking mentor that helps me. And it's game changer. So that helped me as well. And, you know, I mean, taking care of my body helps me with my mind as well. When you're active, when you're staying, you know, when you're moving, your energy is at flow. You know, I always say, you know, the more you work out, the healthier you eat, whatever you put in your body and whatever you do for your body is what you'll get out of your mind, you know, and it's the same thing the other way around too. But, you know, your mind is just as much of a muscle as any other part of your body. So, yeah, so those have been really my key factors of you know, getting to where I needed to be.
That's amazing, because I completely agree. There has to be a balance between the mindfulness activities and getting physical with your body. One
Mhm.
of the articles, which actually just published today on Catalyst 360 that I wrote yesterday, was called Dance Release, and how we can use our body and the power of music to release negative emotions and be silly and let go of stress. So that's another easy thing that anybody can do, is turn on a song, dance in the car, whatever it is, to release stress. But then the visualization part of it is so amazing. Like my manifestation wellness class is really about that. It's incorporating manifestation visualizations depending on where they want to go, and their mind's going to go wherever it wants to go, to
Mhm.
create that sense of future and dream in their subconscious mind. But we also tackle that physical stress and inflammation in the body at the same time. So it's amazing that you connect the mind, the body, and the spirit together, just like I do, because it's such an important component. I mean, we are not just physical body. We're not just organs and tissues. There's so much more to us. And it's important that we tackle everything together synergistically to really get that transformation going and get to where we need to go.
Yeah, and the best part about it is when you have all three of those, like, when you start to figure out all three of those, the mind, the body, and the spirit, that's when impact comes into play. That's my fourth thing, is how, you figured yourself out and you figured out where you need to go. Now it's time to impact, the world. So that's the key to everything, taking care of yourself first, because if you can't take care of yourself, how are you gonna help other people?
Absolutely. Well, that was an amazing interview. I loved bringing you on, and I can't wait for us to work together more.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be on.
Great. Well, you guys can connect with him. His information is going to be linked completely on my podcast channel, so you can reach him out. But he's going to give a little shout out before I close it out.
Yeah, you can follow. I'm most active on Instagram, which is MATTY_ODE. So Matty Ode, which is my name with a Y in my last name, for Instagram. And then all the other pages, for Facebook, LinkedIn, you can just do Matt Ode, MATTODE. And then YouTube, like we talked before, Mustaches for Matt. So it's Mustaches, FORMATT. Me and my girlfriend actually started a channel together, which is called Dating After Diagnosis. So we are kind of talking about our journey together and the struggles and the positives that came out of it. So if you're ever interested in checking that out, you can go to my Mustaches for Matt channel and check it out there.
Amazing, Matt. Thank you. Aloha. This is Diane Vick, and thank you for listening to this episode. Stay tuned for next week, the next episode of Courage and Compassion, which is bringing more guests to help future and bring relaxation and calm in this crisis that we're experiencing now.